All right, we live once again. Pro Beez, Benji, after a fantastic night of boxing. I must say, the big shock, Joe Joyce overcoming Daniel Dubois, and then Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. draw. It was announced. We got to touch on the Dubois fight because there's a lot of debate at the moment. So I know you watched it last night, Benji. What was your immediate impressions?
Well, first of all, hello all. Great to be back. Thank you, Pro Beez, having me back to talk about this. And I'm glad that we can do it today while it's all fresh in the mind and everything like that. And like you say, a lot of people talking about what happened last night during the fight. The most important thing for me is it produced what we hoped it would produce. It was a very even fight. It was a very close fight right up until the stoppage. Plenty of drama. A lot to keep the boxing fan and your average casual fan. I watched this one with my brother, who's not a big boxing fan at all. He enjoyed it, and that says a lot. If the casual fans are enjoying these contests, that takes them from being a casual fan into being a boxing fan, which is something that I'm very much in favour of. I thoroughly enjoyed the fight.
All right. It kind of brings me to the immediate question. The fight concluded in a way that a lot of people are talking about. In your eyes, did Daniel Dubois, did he throw the towel in, or was it safety first, save my career? It's the smart thing to do.
It feels like we're treading a path that's been tread so many times before, and with this whole he quit, he's a quitter, blah 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 blah. And okay, I understand that argument. I can appreciate people making that argument. For me, because despite looking as young as I do, I remember watching Nigel Benn and Gerald McClellan as it happened on ITV. I believe that fight happened. Now, look, Gerald McClellan, that fight ended with him taking a knee and walking back to his corner. On face value, forget about what happened 20 minutes later. He took a knee. He watched the ref count. He then stood up and he walked back to his corner. Judging by last night, the pundits, the people on Twitter, the armchair pundits, they would be calling Gerald McClellan a quitter, and he hasn't got it, and he's not this, and he's not that, and he's a quitter, and blah, 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 blah. 20 minutes later, Gerald McClellan's fighting for his life in the corner. Soon after that, he's in hospital. A few weeks or months after that, he's back in America, can hardly see, can hardly hear. His mental faculties are not there at all. Nigel Benn's got it on the conscience for the rest of his life, and that pretty much, he wasn't the same boxer after that. So what's the reward? What is the reward? If a boxer doesn't quit, finishes the fight, but then has a debilitating injury that stops their career, what's the tangible reward for not quitting? Okay, you're disabled now. You can't provide for your family. Your boxing career that was really promising is now over, but you didn't quit. What's the tangible reward? Right? It's fine. We can call people quitters and things after the fact when we know there's no long-lasting damage or anything like that. Then it's dead easy to call someone a quitter. But let's not get carried away here. This is a phenomenally dangerous sport. Now, as I said to you just before we came online, I saw your interview with Spencer Fearon. I encourage other people to watch the interview with Spencer Fearon because it's great. He pulls no punches. He gives a brutal assessment of Daniel Dubois. And he says, Dubois is never going to come back from this and everything. I'm not saying Spencer Fearon's wrong. Spencer Fearon has forgotten more about boxing than I'm ever going to know. I'm happy to admit that. But at least, hopefully, Daniel Dubois has the chance to maybe try again. If Daniel Dubois had lost the sight in his eye, he wouldn't even have the chance to get back in the ring because he wouldn't get a license and he wouldn't be able to carry on. So, I mean, just one final point, because I appreciate I'm rabbiting on a bit on this thing. I got a text message from a very close friend of mine who I go to before all this lockdown stuff, I went to live boxing events with him, and we met Daniel Dubois. I stood next to Daniel Dubois. I shook his hand, and he is a monster of a boy. And my friend, who also met Daniel Dubois, said, "Oh, he quit. He quit." I said, "Right, next time we're at a boxing event and we see Daniel Dubois, I expect you to go up to his face and tell him he quit." I didn't get a text message back. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Beez. You say something because I'm just going off on. Sorry.
I really don't want to say too much about. I think the fans, they're coming in their droves, and they really got the opportunity. This is their platform to make their points, and we'll go through them. All right. So we're gonna take it from the top, guys. Smash that like button. We're trying to involve the fans a bit more in pep talk. So do us well and smash that like button, subscribe, share. All that stuff. All right. So right from the top, Glasgow Rangers is life. Who do you think would win out of Joshua versus Joyce?
Straight. Well, AJ at the moment, because yeah, I'm just gonna go AJ. Look, I mean, AJ's got more pro fights and he's fought better opposition. I mean, actually, I know you sit on the fence a little bit, Mr. Beez.
more than a little bit. Yeah. That's my home defense.
But I think this is a question that you'll answer. That win for Joyce last night, was that the best one on his record now? Was that the best win of his career so far?
I think Usanov, Stavan. He's had some good notable names. Bryant Jennings. I think it was probably the most. Yeah, I think it was the most impactful win because Daniel Dubois knocking over everyone, meant to be the next big thing in the future of British boxing, if not on the world stage. And Joe Joyce has stopped him. Major statement. And he took a lot of his best shots. And if you see a lot of the post-fight interviews and you see Joe Joyce, he's hardly got a scratch on him. He's a tough man, I must say. Yeah. So,
I mean,
yeah.
Off the back of that win, I believe we should elevate Joyce. I think it's disrespectful not to. Are people now going to de-elevate Daniel Dubois a little bit? It's about
boxing.
That content.
This is boxing. It's not like football where you get 3 days to turn around the result, and show that you're a lot better than what your last game showed. Boxing, Daniel Dubois is probably going to be out for a while now. There's talk of a detached retina, which, if that is confirmed, that is a major injury that will take a lot of time, surgery, etc., to kind of come back from. And even so, now he's got the caveat on his back now of when he gets in the ring, the eyes are target. We see that with Kell Brook. Yeah. Golovkin kind of made a lot of damage on his career, and it's going to be hard now. And also, not even just the injuries. It's when you've got that fear factor about you, and you're walking down fighters and you're banging them out in a couple of rounds. What happens is when that goes and you lose for the first time, people start to walk forward more. The fights become harder. There's less fear. We saw that with Mike Tyson. As soon as Buster Douglas beat Tyson, everybody fancied to go. So this is gonna. But one words of encouragement for Daniel Dubois. Through adversity, you show your character. And everyone's had low moments in their lives, or times when it ain't been so great. Now it's time to bounce back. You're still young. You're only 23 years old. Hit the gym, work on a few things, and come back and win a world title. A lot of these, Joe Joyce is 35. Anthony Joshua's 31, 32. Tyson Fury, they're all post 30s. Dillian White post 30s. So there is a major gap in between Daniel Dubois' generation and the generation before him. So it's not all doom and gloom, but we've got to engage the viewers. Guys, smash that like button. We're going to be joined also by Dillian White's trainer, Xavier Miller, and also H Money, YouTuber from the US of A, quite soon. So we'll get through some of your questions. All right, so Mr. KWX Ben 1966. Why is everyone so hot on this quit thing? Is it a British thing, naturalism and stuff like that?
I'm just replying to someone who said the commentators called McClellan a quitter at the time, and I'm just saying the commentators may have called McClellan a quitter, but were they right to do so? Anyway, why is everyone so hot on this quit thing? I don't know why this has become fashionable to say. I mean, I'm looking back to obviously Kell Brook versus Spence, but I'm sure there was a bout before then, and I can't remember who it involved, where this popped up, where this happened, where someone quit, and I have a recollection of Tony Bellew giving a very scathing assessment, saying that, and I can't remember who the boxer is now, but it sort of carried over into.
Sorry, Benji. Just hold that thought one moment. I'm gonna now include Xavier Miller, the trainer, Dillian White. So this is another dimension to for you fans to ask your questions. All right, Xavier.
Yo, what's going on?
Welcome. Live chat. We're talking post-fight, joined by Benji, Xavier Miller, the trainer Dillian White in the building. He's going to give his trainer's perspective on the fight last night. But Benji's just going to finish a point he was making.
Yeah, the whole quitting thing, it just seems almost a little bit fashionable at the moment for pundits to really be quite aggressive on boxers who, for whatever reason, take themselves out of a fight at the moment. I'm not that keen on it myself. Look, I'm just an armchair fan, and that I ain't got the stones to do what these pro boxers do. So it doesn't feel right for me to be calling a pro boxer a quitter. You know, it's slightly different for Carl Frampton, David Hay, Bellew.
So we got sorry, Benji. We got H Money in the building also as well from the USFA, Memphis, Tennessee. Welcome, H Money, baby.
Salute. How y'all doing?
We're doing good, man. Benji's just in the middle of a point. Sorry, we'll let him finish his point and then we'll open the floor. All right.
Yeah, I'm just saying, as an armchair fan, and that I don't feel that I have the right to call a professional boxer who's putting it all on the line, putting their health on the line. I don't feel I have the right to call that person a quitter. If former pros, people who are in the game, they want to call Daniel Dubois or whoever else a quitter, I think they have more license to than I do. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Before we get to the questions of the fans, we'll read them out one by one to members of the panel. But Xavier Miller, what was your immediate reaction to the result of last night?
Bit disappointed. I thought it was a really good fight, and this seems to be a theme of this year anyway. We just like this pandemic's produced 50-50 fights, and that was another 50-50 yesterday. It was going back and forth. You know, Joyce made a really good start in the first round. His jab was really good, set the tone. Dubois came back in the second, and the fight just got more and more interesting as it went along. You know, but yeah, you know, it is what it is. You know, all respect to Joyce. You know, he done what he needed to do, and he was the more consistent fighter on the day.
Okay, all right. You're a trainer, and you know Steve Broughton, right? I'm sure you know Steve Broughton. The game plan of Joe Joyce last night, did he execute that to a T? Because the jab was a key thing in the fight overall.
Yeah, I'd say yes. If that's, I mean, you know, when you have a training camp, obviously, you know, you have a game plan. You have plan A, B, and C. You hope that plan A works, and if it doesn't work, you go on to the next. But their plan A worked, and he was consistent round after round. You know, he didn't take any unnecessary risks. You know, I thought he could have used the right hand a bit more, because obviously the eye was closed, and he actually maybe could have stopped that fight even maybe a couple of rounds earlier if he'd stepped up the pace. But you listen, you credit to him, 10th round stoppage. You can't really ask for more. You know, I think he was the underdog in the fight, and he's come out on top. You know, he's more experienced guys in more ways than one. Been in with better competition, better amateur pedigree, and maybe that was the difference. But, you know, on the day 2 guys get in, you know, someone's got to win, someone's got to lose, and that's boxing.
I was saying to someone before the fight that I feel like Joe Joyce is going to implement a game plan that we haven't really seen from him before. I felt like he was going to box different, and it worked out exactly that. Usually Joe Joyce comes forward straight, swinging them bombs left, right, center. This time he had a high guard and he was just popping out the jab. And he was very wary of that big right hand from Daniel Dubois. And he negated the right hand, but he also was picking off Daniel Dubois as the rounds went on, time after time. And I think credit probably to this game plan also is Jimmy Tibbs in the corner, experienced trainer, a man that loves to box off the jab. Definitely helped his game plan overall and helped with the victory.
Yeah, I thought it was a really, really good performance. You know, it's funny, the way the fight was going, Dubois seemed to have more joy when he was coming forward. You know, as soon as he was on the outside, he couldn't deal with the jab of Joyce. But as soon as he started putting a bit more pressure, then sometimes he'd land the more explosive shots. But then he'd go back into a shell and then almost get mesmerized by the jab. And then by the time he got going again, you know, the round was over. The Joyce was very clever, man. You can see Dubois looks quite green in there. But me personally, I think it was the right fight for him to take. The problem with boxing at the moment is the guys don't want to step up and take risks. If you don't take risks quite early in your career, you don't know how far you can go. He knows now, all right, I'm not quite good enough yet, but at least he knows now, rather than getting with another 3, 4, 5 guys, you know, of the level of the guys he's been boxing, knock them out, but you're not really getting anything out of it. He would have learned a lot yesterday. You know, now he knows what it means to be a professional boxer at the highest level, and he'll have to go away and rebuild. But it's better to do that now while he's younger and he's got the time to rebuild his career, rather than, again, knocking over guys you can just knock over. What are you going to gain from that? You won't gain anything down the road.
All right. We got to head over to the US of A. H Money Bags. What's good? What's cracking lacking?
Man, it was a great performance by Joe Joyce. He looked sharp in there, and you could see his Olympic background. Joe Joyce was able to control the fight with his jab alone. Just with that jab alone, he was able to dominate the fight. The footwork from Joe Joyce was it was great. Great ring generalship. His footwork, he was able to keep Daniel Dubois on the outside. And Joe Joyce, he showed us a great chin as well. He showed us a great chin. He took Daniel Dubois' best punch, and he outboxed Daniel Dubois, and he made it look kind of easy in there. And I noticed that Joe Joyce was bigger than Daniel Dubois in there. He was taller, he was longer, and he just looked like the bigger guy, and he looked like the better fighter in there. You know, skills wins fights, my brothers. Skills wins fights. And Joe Joyce, he had more skills than Daniel Dubois.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that.
The whole accent, man. You gotta love it, man. Memphis, Tennessee in the house, baby.
I recognize your voice now, you know. TBV with Ness and Mugia and them guys. I just recognize your voice.
On a boxing voice, right?
Yes. Respect to you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
On a boxing voice. Okay, all right. So look, H Money, I got to ask you, did you think Dubois quit?
That's a great question, because it's hard. It's really hard to say, because it looked like Daniel Dubois was running out of gas as well in that fight. He was really getting tired and he was slowing down. And I seen Joe Joyce was just picking him apart. And Daniel Dubois, he looked very confused in that fight, man. I'm not gonna say I don't know if he quit or not, but I'm not sure. I can't say, man. I really don't know. What about you? What do you think?
Let's put it this way. I think I think the current state of boxing now, it's almost expected in a way. But when you look at the old fighters, you know, you're looking at the 70s, 80s, and 90s. You know, it didn't happen as regularly as it's happening now. You know, the fight yesterday reminded me of Lennox Lewis v Gary Mason. Mason was a tough guy. Very good fighter. You know, he
R.I.P. Gary Mason.
You know,
R.I.P.
Rest in peace, man. But you know, his eye was an absolute mess. But he knew that, and what he did, he started swinging, and he tried to go after Lennox Lewis, and then the referee looked at him and said, "You know what, young man, you can't go any further." I prefer that. I would have liked Dubois to get up and say, "You know what, I haven't got any more time left. You know, they're going to stop this fight. Let me just swing and just hope and see what can happen for me. I will see if I can change the fight." He has the power to do it. We know that. But I would have liked to see that from him. That was the only thing that was missing last night. You know, only he knows how he felt. You know, some guys, when they get eye damage like that, you know, you can feel, you know, maybe detached retina's gone or orbital bone is. You can't say how a fighter feels. We just don't know. But what I will say is, in the old days, those guys would just kind of go through it. And the safety aspect of boxing is different now. We want these guys to fight another day. So, yes, he went down and he didn't try to get up. So you can take it how you want to take it. But I would have liked to see him get up, have a go. And then if the corner stops it, they stop it. Or the referee more than likely would look to him and say, "You know what, you had a go and that's enough." But that's the only thing that I would have liked to see from Dubois. But again, the guy's young and he's got enough time to rebuild. Come again. You know, Zuma Nelson lost his first title crack early in his career, and he came back and went on to do wonderful things. You know, Manny lost early, Hopkins lost early. It does happen. You know, it's boxing. We can't get on these guys because they lose. You know, we've got to appreciate the fact that you stepped up and fought a guy with a lot more experience, and you did your best. And respect to you. Boxing's a hard game.
All right, Benji, I'm going to come to you on this, right? So Xavier's talked about maybe the corner getting involved. Now, we had the whole Deontay Wilder, Mark Breland situation, and it's now put trainers in a spotlight where if they try and get involved and throw the towel in, then potentially that's going to be a whole nother conversation, another debate as well. Would you have liked to have seen his corner get involved and take that heat away from him having to take the knee?
Well, let's face it, if the corner had not let him out, had retired him on the stool, there would be no conversation about him quitting right now. The corner could have taken the heat for it. And it would have been a case of, well, Daniel Dubois didn't quit. His corner, you know, decided that he couldn't see out of that eye. There was distress signals coming. So for the safety of the box, they just pulled him out. And interestingly enough, with what Spencer Fearon was saying to you last night about, he was saying one of the reasons why he doesn't think Daniel Dubois can come back is because of the people around him. Does this then put question marks around his corner and training team? I think it's great that we've got Xavier here, you know, to maybe shed some light on that and give his opinion on that. You know, we always
what did Spencer actually say? I haven't heard it. What did he say?
It was a very scathing assessment, and he just sort of said that Daniel Dubois quit. He hasn't got that mental toughness, and he's not going to come back because his support network, his team around him, aren't the right people to get him back. That was about it.
Well, I mean, the only thing I would say is, again, it's very easy for guys to judge on the outside. The job that we have to do in there is one of the most difficult jobs in the world. You know, I think the corner did the right thing, sending him out, and they were trying to motivate and encourage him. And if it sent him out and he did chin check Joyce and dropped him, then they'd get all the plaudits. Obviously, that's not what happened, and Dubois ended up taking the knee. It's so easy to blame corners, change trainers, do this, do that. You know, Dubois has to look at himself. You know, he's the one that didn't want to continue. the coaches that were doing their job in the corner. I mean, to me, the eye was very bad, yes, but he was still competitive. So there was no real reason for the corner to say, you know, we're not going to send you out for another round. And I think them sending him out for that round really should have been. That should have told Dubois, you know what, I need to have a go now, because when I come back to the corner next time, I might not come back out. So that's why I would have liked to see him at that point really have a go. I mean, even before he went down for the knee, even when he came at the beginning of that round, he knows himself, he can't see out of the eye, then have a go. You know, have a go and see what happens. But the way it went, the way it transpired, obviously it doesn't, in the end, it doesn't look good. But again, you know, everybody has an opinion when things go wrong, man. Everybody. You know, in 6 months' time, you know, he'll come back with another good performance and he can rebuild. And then conversation might change. They might say, you know what, that was the best thing to happen to Dubois because it was a learning lesson. Boxing.
All right. Okay. Just got to big up the signature for the super chat donation to the channel. Thanks for that. Big up the signature. Right. Another angle to look at this, right? Okay. So Junior Ajogbo, all right? You remember him, Craig Cunningham, Benji in particular. I know you remember him. He's from the Midlands, right? He had that fight with Junior Ajogbo, and since that fight, after the eye injury, he's not been able to box again. All right. Again, some would probably say, well, if he had taken a knee, then he might still have a career.
Yeah,
there's so many ways you can look at this.
I remember that one well because Craig Cunningham was brought in just kind of as a stepping stone for Ajogbo. Ajogbo was coming off Olympic glory, done very, very well at the Olympics previously, and he was touted to have, you know, what would be a promising career. Funnily enough, actually, I saw Craig Cunningham in the gym a few months after that fight because I was down there talking to John Pegg, and I sort of, well, I'm good at saying stupid things, but I said, you know, what happened to Ajogbo that night? And John Pegg just said, look, Craig Cunningham happened to Ajogbo that night. He just wasn't ready for someone who wanted it that bit more. Craig Cunningham's in my opinion, is very underrated as a boxer. He's a tough lad. Yeah. And just because we haven't seen him on TV that much, I think that's another problem we have with boxing. Just because we don't see people on TV,
good point.
Just because they're not household name, we don't rate them.
Good point.
But I mean, that was it for Ajogbo that night. That finished him.
All right, H Money, we're going to come to you, man. We're going to start to now answer some of the questions of some of the viewers that have come in. There's quite a few of them. We've got a backlog. So, guys, thanks for joining. Smash that like button. H Money Bags, Xavier Miller, Benji's Boxing, Pro Beez. It's a party. Pop Smoke said it. Welcome to the party. All right. So, okay. Wow, where do we start here? Okay, don't ask me. We'll start from here. Daniel isn't ready for me. He needs a middle fight first. Warren said, well, maybe this is his middle fight history. Okay, so don't ask me is kind of saying that, look, before any form of rematch with Joe Joyce, he needs to have another fight first to kind of get his momentum back. What do you make of that, H Money?
That's a good idea. Possibly he takes a tune-up fight to get back on a winning track. We see that Joe Joyce was a tough fight for him. He's not ready for an immediate rematch with Joe Joyce. He needs to fix his problems. He needs to tighten up his defense. He needs to work on his head movement and get some more experience. Probably 2 fights before going straight to a Joe Joyce matchup. I think that's a bad matchup for him. I don't think he's ready to get back in the ring with Joe Joyce. He needs to take probably 2 more fights and then possibly get revenge against Joe Joyce because it's a bad matchup, bro. Styles makes fights, and Joe Joyce, he exposed Daniel Dubois He exposed him.
Wow, H Money just with the full of the smoke, man. It's Sunday smoke, as Dillian White says. Sunday smoke. All right. So, all right, just throw out the next question. Okay, Ra says, we'll aim this one at Benji. Do you agree that 22-23 is too young for a modern heavyweight to step up to world level? Given that their peak is in their 30s, same as Huey Fury. He looked boyish compared to the top guys he lost to. Okay, Huey Fury took a title shot real early against Joseph Parker. That for me was a little bit different, Benji, because I honestly felt that Huey was unlucky that night, you know, but Joseph Parker got the W. How does it compare with Daniel Dubois?
I mean, look, there's a saying in there: if you're good enough, you're old enough. And I think, I mean, look, Mike Tyson, how old was he when he first won a world title? He was like 21 or something, or younger. He was the youngest
21.
ever. Yeah. So there's that argument: if you're good enough, you're old enough. But I think at the same time, you have to appreciate Mike Tyson was a freak. You know, that these people don't come along all that often. And maybe there was an element of trying to create a new Mike Tyson in Daniel Dubois. So there's an element of that. But yeah, it does seem that, especially with heavyweights, they seem to mature a bit differently. They sort of come into a peak a little bit later on in their career than they do with the lower weights. But yeah, it's an interesting question, that is. But I don't think you can put a hard and fast rule. I don't think you can say, oh, just because you're 23, you're too young to do anything. It's all part of that, learning process. It's all part of that journey as being a professional, I'd guess. See, I've said something so stupid, everyone's gone into silence.
I think you're looking for some more questions. That's all.
You right there, Mr. Beez? You okay? Can you hear us still?
We've lost Pro Beez, man.
I think we have.
Gone.
So, what do you guys think? Is there a hard and fast age of when someone should mature into a heavyweight champ?
Like I said earlier, I think that he took that fight at the right time. For where they're looking to try and take him, he needed a test, and that was his test. And just because he come up short, I don't start blaming matchmakers and trainers and stuff like that. You just, on the night, you just weren't good enough, and you just got to come again. You've got to come again. I mean, the team was good enough to get him to that point, so the team can go away and try and make some changes. Are people too protective of that, having that O on the record these days? Should boxers be less bothered about having an O and not be so concerned about taking a loss? I think this year in particular, I think that ethos has changed. I think guys are taking more risks now. I mean, look at Teofimo Lopez the other day. Yeah. He stepped up, beat Lomachenko. I think guys are taking more risks now. I think they are. I think we've had some really good matchups, some good 50-50 fights for the whole year. So I think boxing's in a very good place. For any fight fan that's complaining about matchups this year, then maybe they should go and watch another sport, because you're getting the fights you want. How can you complain? We've got Danny Garcia, Errol Spence coming in the moment.
Oh, I can't wait.
Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell.
Yeah,
these guys. I mean, the year before, you were people complaining because the fights weren't here. The fights are here now, so enjoy the fights, man. If a guy wins, he wins. If he loses, he loses. Then move on to the next fight. Yeah. This is what we want as fans.
All right, guys, can you hear me?
You're back with us.
You frozen though. You froze up though.
I think he might have to log out, come back in.
Yeah.
H Money, what do you think? Are people hanging on to that O too much?
Yeah, I believe so. The greatest fighters that ever lived had losses. Muhammad Ali, he had a loss. Sugar Ray Robinson, the greatest fighters that ever lived. So nowadays, in this era, fighters, they don't want to take a loss, But Anthony Joshua showed us that you can take a loss and bounce back, So I feel like
Dillian showed that as well,
Yes, Dillian White.
Dillian White has built an amazing CV since losing to Joshua. And one thing I'll always say about Dillian, Dillian has got a throwback mentality. He fights anybody, and he always, no matter what, goes on his shield. If things ain't going his way, you can bet your life that Dillian's going to go out swinging. And this is what you want. This is what you want from a boxer. We want that throwback mentality. We need it. We need it in boxing.
Absolutely. Dylan White is a soldier. One thing about him, he'll go in there, he'll fight anybody. He'll get knocked down, get back up, keep fighting. He's a throwback type of fighter. And in a rematch, I want to see Dylan. I want to see more movement from Dylan. I don't want to see Dylan be flat-footed. Use that jab. He has a great jab, and
great jab, yeah.
In that movement, don't be flat-footed, because then you're gonna give Povetkin a chance to land a big shot. But Dylan White, he was winning that first fight with Povetkin. He knocked him down twice. He was on his way to get in a stoppage. And things happen in the heavyweight division. Anything can happen.
Anything, yeah. Yeah, it's good. And it's made for a very good rematch as well, like I say. And again with Dillian, credit, no complaints. Got straight back into camp and said we got to handle business. And again, this is what you want from your fighters. This is what you want. You always judge fighters on their character. That's how fighters should be judged.
Is there, going back into camp after that Povetkin fight, is there things that like you're looking at switching up and doing slightly different? Obviously, you're not going to go into mad detail on that. I appreciate that. But have there been any changes going on in the approach?
The only thing I would say, because I'm consistent. I'm consistent in what I say. We didn't get the victory, so obviously something has to change. That's all I will say.
Okay. I appreciate that. I mean, going back to the whole the O thing, Dillian, it's 2 losses, AJ and Povetkin. Is it that he's got on his record?
Yes.
Yeah. Any change of demeanor or anything from him following those losses?
I'm sure you see Dillian on Instagram all the time, or see him on interviews. What you see there, that's Dillian.
Right.
That's him. He's a very positive guy. He'll take the loss, take it as a learning lesson. All his fights to him, as far as he's concerned, they're learning. They're learning from him because he didn't have much of an amateur experience. So every time he gets in with these guys, he's learning something. So, like I said, again, he's got the right mentality. And this was the reason why I was happy that he signed my super featherweight, Youssef, because Youssef, to me, has a very similar mentality to Dillian. So, I was happy that someone like Dillian would now be guiding, Youssef's career. It's what I wanted. Someone who understands the game. Dillian's an elite fighter, and, he's a manager, and he understands the boxing business. So having someone like that looking after Youssef, who I've been training for a long, long time, about 7-8 years, just very, very happy with it, with the whole setup and the whole situation.
All right, Benji, you did a good job, man.
Back.
You did a good job. You did a good job.
I'm trying to stop the ship from sinking.
Hey, do you know what it is? I think over here was too much. It was too much information. It was too much information that was, and the conversation was at the moment. It was it was fire. So I think the forces that be were trying to stop that. Okay, so look, I think we're back to the questions. So some of the viewers, and they're flooding in. Guys, smash that like button. If I fall out again, Benji is your host. If I fall out again.
No, I've done my stint. I've done my stint. H Money can be the next host. You can do the next bit.
All right. Guys, smash that like button. There's a lot of you in here that are viewing the show. Smash the like button, share, subscribe. If you ain't subscribed already. We're talking Daniel Dubois' defeat to Joe Joyce and a bit more. Let us know what you think. Shocking result from last night to a lot of people. Does Dubois, does he come back straight away, or does he need to do some soul searching and make his way back to the heavyweight division, taking his time? All right, so look, Xavier, I've got to say, Daniel Dubois, okay, so one thing I wanted to ask you particularly was, people are going on about the eye injury, right? And how, okay, he might have quit, but the scorecards, right? Crucially, Daniel Dubois was up on the scorecards. So your point saying that maybe he should have tried to box it through until the end probably has a lot of credence, because he would have won the fight, judging by what we know was on the scorecards, that he was up. One judge had him up by 8 rounds. We ain't gonna... So I don't know what to say about that. But he would have won. Literally, he would have won then.
Well, I think at the going into the 10th round, I think I might have had Joyce up maybe by a couple of rounds. I can see where guys were giving Daniel some rounds, because at times he did look the more explosive fighter. Joyce was really good with the jab, but there wasn't really much else, on top of that. I would have liked to see him go to a second or third phase or use the right hand a little bit more, like I said earlier. But when Daniel was explosive, he was explosive, and it was a good shot. Sometimes you can win rounds doing that, landing more clean, effective punches. So I can see where some guys will score for Daniel, some will score for Joe. But like I said, going to the 10th, I had Joe Joyce a couple of rounds up. That's why, in my mind, I was thinking, right, the eye swollen shut. You look like you might be a couple of rounds behind. You're not going to maybe get another round, to do what you need to do. So just go out there and see what you can get, because the fight's getting away from you. And I always like to see that with fighters. The fight's getting away from you. What are you doing? What adjustments are you going to make? What are you going to try different? Because obviously you're not dealing with the jab, Only when you put pressure, you're having success. So, build on that. Put more pressure, try and land something big, because the fight's not going your way. But that was the only thing that was missing for me. Apart from that, listen, he's gone 10 rounds and the eye was swollen. I think it started swelling from maybe the second or third round onwards. So you can't say he wasn't giving it a go, showing heart, because he was trying to get to Joe. But, Joe was just doing a good job with that stick.
Yeah, good point. I think H1, a good point is what Xavier is saying, that the eye injury started probably round 3, 4. He had a bit of blood on his nose as well. So those people that said that, look, he just chucked it in, well, he gave it a good go for another 8 rounds or 6 rounds, whatever it is. Has it been harsh, a lot of this criticism?
I don't think so, bro. He deserves some of the criticism, bro, because he went down. He took a knee. He had a chance to get back up, and he chose not to. The referee asked him. He said, "You want to keep going?" He said, "That's it. Like, no mas." He wanted no more. And Joe Joyce was landing a powerful jab. This wasn't no ordinary jab. He busted his nose open as well. His nose was bleeding. I think in round number 2, he busted his nose wide open. He swelled his eye up, and he had him confused, bro. He kept Daniel Dubois on the outside, and Dubois was getting outboxed. He was jabbing his face off, bro. He was jabbing his face off, and he beat him with one punch. All it took was a jab from Joe Joyce to beat Daniel Dubois. He stopped him with a jab, bro. You know what I mean? And Dubois wasn't able to make his adjustments in there. When he was in the inside, that's when he had his best work. But the jab of Joe Joyce kept him on the outside, and he was confused. He didn't know how to fight going backwards. He had no idea how to fight going backwards.
In some ways, Benji, you talk about fighting backwards. A lot had been made of Deontay Wilder when he lost to Tyson Fury, boxing backwards. These days, I think there's an argument out there that you need to show that you can box forward and box backwards. You can pivot, you can move about the ring. Is it fair to say that Dubois maybe should have had a plan B?
Well, last week when we had this conversation on the lead up and the build up, and we were talking about plan A's, plan B's, plan C's. Yeah, he needs to have that, but it's fine having a plan B. Let's say the plan B for Dubois should have been to be able to go on the back foot and look for that counter. It's fine having that as a plan B, but you've got to work on it. You've got to know that your boxer is capable of doing that, especially on the big stage.
And don't forget, that could have been the plan, but then you get the eye injury, and then your plan goes out the window.
Yeah.
Then you got to go something else.
It's funny because everything that H Money's just said was pretty much the exact same conversation I was having with my brother as the fight was going on. Right from round one, I mean, Joe Joyce, for me, the way he boxes, it's not particularly pretty on the eye. He sort of seems quite heavy-footed. His hands don't seem to have that nice sort of flow in them. But bloody hell, it's effective. The name the Juggernaut suits him so well because once he gets moving and starts going forward and builds up a bit of momentum, throwing the shots, it is almost like he's unstoppable. And Dubois had never had that. So it's a combination of that jab, constantly hit him in the face, the fact that Joyce could meet him in the center and push him back. And then on top of that, Dubois throwing his best shots and it's just bouncing off his chin. And Joyce has managed to take these shots that have knocked everyone else out. It must have been heartbreaking for him. I honestly think that Joe Joyce, more than anything, broke his heart in a number of different areas, whether it was putting him on the back foot, whether it was taking his best shots, whether it was just outlanding him consistently. Dubois, in my opinion, got his heart broken probably by about round 5, in my opinion.
You know what's funny? Anthony Joshua said probably a few weeks ago that we find out about fighters when they're in deep waters. Deep waters. Can they swim or do they drown? Is there an argument out there that some of the fights that Dubois had leading up to the Joyce fight, he wasn't in deep waters enough for this acid test? I'll put that at Xavier Miller.
But that's where I give credit to Dubois' team, because they did try to step up. They did try to fight an opponent who they knew was going to be a test. And he can't be a little bit short. Okay. On the night you just weren't good enough, young man. That's okay. You have to come again. But he tried to have a real fight. So you can't take that away from him.
I've got to say, back to you, Xavier, when Joe Joyce made the appointment of Ishmael Salas, straight away, I knew the game plan. Straight away, I was like, okay, Ishmael Salas. Being in the Haymaker gym when Salas was in London a lot, Ishmael Salas relies a lot more on lateral movement in his game plan. You see that with Jorge Linares, right? The movement about the ring. He likes to use the spaces in the ring. Straight away, as soon as I said, okay, it's going back to Salas, against Dubois, a heavy hitter who likes to come forward, you already know. You already know what the game plan was,
Yeah, but again, you see, I like to give credit to coaches for coming up with a game plan, but at the end of the day, it's the fighter that's got to see it through. The fighter's got to get in that ring and it's got to execute. And that's why I give all the credit in the world to Joyce, because, you can see whatever he was doing was working and he was consistent. And that takes a strong mind. He was focused on that job at hand the whole time. He rarely put himself in danger to get caught clean, with Dubois. He kept offsetting him with that jab. So I give credit to obviously the team for coming up with a good game plan. But at the end of the day, we have to give all the credit and all the praise to the fighters, because they're the ones that's getting in there and doing the job.
Right. What I would say is, look, before I get to the comments of the fans, is Frank Warren mentioned that he's still going to stick by the fighter that loses, right? And he talked about the fight that he made between George Groves and James DeGale. And he said the loser of that fight went on to become a world champion in James DeGale. And
I had to by the way.
Sorry?
I had DeGale win that fight by a round.
That fight was, I was sitting in the crowd that night. That fight was so close, I can't even call that fight. It was that close. It was so close.
At the very least, a draw. But I didn't think Groves did enough to win it. I thought DeGale by 1 or a draw would have been fair. But yeah, sorry, continue.
All right, but look, as an inspiration to young fighters who have a setback, DeGale lost that fight. He got loads of stick that fight because in the build up to the fight, he was trolling a lot. He was trolling George Groves a lot in the build up to that fight, and he was kind of seen as the villain in that fight. Right after that, he was rinsed by a lot of the boxing fraternity. But you remember, he made his way back. He was boxing on small shows, leisure centres. I think one of them was Blue Water in London, and he got a lot of criticism for boxing on the small shows. But then he made his way back to the top of the mountain and became one of the finest super middles in the world, becoming a world champion. So it just goes to show you can make your way back from a setback.
Absolutely, definitely.
Well, look at David Hay. He got Cat Thompson, wasn't it? Knocked him out.
Carl Thompson, yeah,
Carl Thompson, and a lot of people said at that stage, well, David Hay hasn't got the chin, he's not this, he's not that. And I mean, he went on to have a hell of a career, make a fair bit of money, really, didn't he?
Yeah. All right, guys, get your questions in. All right, we'll engage some of the viewers. Smash that like button, subscribe. Thanks for joining. This is for the fans, so have your say. All right, I don't know where we start. Okay, I'll just take it from the TOP right here. Ugo, I won't pronounce your surname, mate. I might get it wrong. All right. Joyce showed courage and resistance, more mature in his approach from start to finish. Great composure. Is that something you'd agree with, H Money?
Agreed.
Absolutely. I agree, man. Joe Joyce had a great performance. I'm impressed by Joe Joyce, man. He executed the game plan that his trainer gave him, and he showed me tremendous skills for a heavyweight to be able to box like that, and to stand in there and go toe to toe in the second round with Daniel Dubois and take his biggest punches, and he showed a great chin. And Joe Joyce showed me a lot of heart in there. He showed me a lot of skills. I'm impressed by Joe Joyce, man. I think he's one of the best heavyweights in the world, and he showed it. He showed it last night, bro. He should be probably definitely a top 10 heavyweight, definitely top 10. And I feel like he's underrated. He's definitely underrated, and I feel like people underestimated Joe Joyce, including myself, leading up to this fight. I'm a believer of Joe Joyce now. I think he has one of the best jabs in boxing, especially in the heavyweight division. I think he's a contender, man, and he can be a threat for anybody. You got to watch out for this guy.
All righty. Okay, guys, smash that like button. Benji, H Money, Xavier Miller, it's a party. Okay, it's time for your say, so get your questions in. All right. Okay, Audi alias TT, regular viewer on the channel. I said the same to you. All the last 2 weeks, Joe did not box with Abel Sanchez. Okay, so Xavier Miller, that's probably directed towards you from the training aspect. Joe Joyce was in Big Bear as well with Abel Sanchez a little while back as well. And I think what the viewers trying to say is that Ishmael Salas's influence was crucial in this fight against Daniel Dubois.
Yeah, it's an interesting insight. But what guys need to remember is that when these boxers go through their journey and they go to different coaches, they learn different things. So he would have picked up things from Abel. Then he's moved on to another coach, picked up a couple more things, and he finds a home. So, yeah, I think it's obviously the right choice for this fight. He might need a completely different approach for another opponent. So, again, the marriage is right at the moment for that fight. And hopefully, I like trainer boxers' relationship to continue. I like guys to come up together. If they have a problem, rebuild together. I like that. I'm very much focused on the 80s and 90s of boxing. Manny Stewart, Eddie Futch, these guys, they had wins and losses, but they rebuilt their fighters. They come back to the gym and they work on things. I like to see that. So, it's a very good point he's made there. Obviously, that style suited Joyce, and good call.
Yeah,
good management decision, should I say?
Yeah, you mentioned Abel Sanchez. Well, he trained Triple G for so many years before their split. And what was Triple G about? Planting his feet, landing them big shots, and that's what Joe Joyce was doing previously, right? So
But at the same time, Triple G has a very underrated jab. For me, he gave Danny Jacobs a lot of trouble with just the jab. He gave Canelo a lot of trouble in the first fight. In the rematch with the jab. So again, Abel's obviously teaching these guys something. I don't like just taking credit away from coaches because they've gone somewhere else. A fighter's gone somewhere else. Triple G has had an outstanding career. Only lost to probably the best pound for pound boxer in the world. If he's not one, he's 1A, 1B with Terence Crawford. So Triple G is a very good fighter as well. Sometimes you don't have to move a hell of a lot to be effective. He's so I give credit to all coaches doing this. I know how much time and work we put in. So I don't ever say anything negative about a coach. To me, as far as I'm concerned, it's a code. The guys that have been doing it, to me, they should be checked because what you do every day. You get up in the morning, you give hours. You're not going to get them to that time back. You shouldn't talk about, you're in the business with coaches. There should be a respect between coaches. So I like speaking positively about these guys.
100. All right, guys, we've got 9 minutes left to this chat. We're going to get a nice juicy question for Benji. Benji, I'm looking for a really hard question for you.
Oh, don't do that to me. not with the rest of this panel. There's much more knowledge than me on this panel. Hell of a lot more.
All right, so
I have to say though, I put in the chat. There's sort of two questions that I'm interested in. Is who do people want to see in with Joe Joyce next? Obviously there's the Usyk thing, and Joyce called out Usyk. So if Joyce could fight anyone, who would people really like to see him in with? Because obviously there is Usyk. I'd quite like to see him in with Chisora. I think that'd be a good fight.
Yeah.
And if it is Usyk next or somewhere close down the line, who's going to win that? Can Joyce beat Usyk this time? Because obviously they've met before in the WSB, wasn't it, a long time ago? So those are my two. Maybe H Money. Maybe you can give your opinion on this. Who do you want to see Joyce in with? Can he beat Usyk?
Yes, I think he can beat Usyk now. I watched Usyk's last performance against Derek Chisora. He looked good, but I seen some flaws in his game. I feel like Joe Joyce is much bigger, man. He's just bigger. He's stronger. I think Joyce can beat Usyk after watching his fight with Daniel Dubois. That's a good fight. I would also like to see Joe Joyce possibly against Joseph Parker. I think that can be a good fight right there. And even possibly a matchup with Filip Hrgović. I think that can be a good fight with Filip Hrgović. I think that could be a good matchup. Also, even Jarrell Big Baby Miller. That's possibly a fight in the future that I would like to see. And even with possibly Tyson Fury, maybe I know they both work with Frank Warren. I think that could be a nice fight in the UK.
Hey, there's a lot of possibilities. That's what I would say. I would say the top heavyweights at the moment, I think there's a case for all of them being competitive against each other. Which is there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions, and I feel like there's a lot of answers that we still need to get from these fighters. But invariably, they all offer something different.
We gotta be careful when we're talking about Joe Joyce fighting the likes of Usyk, because Usyk and Daniel Dubois are two different planets. Usyk is an established, undisputed cruiserweight champion, and his schooling, his education it'll be a completely different puzzle for someone like Joyce. And we're bearing in mind Usyk's got very good movement. Joyce is very slow, so it's a completely different fight. I would favour Usyk in that fight because he's got more dimensions to his game. To me, he can do more. But again, to me, Joyce, he doesn't need another fight before he steps up to this level. He's at that age now, and he's had enough experience where he should be fighting the best guys. That's my opinion. He should be getting in there. He doesn't need no building fight. He's boxed the likes of Brian Jennings and those kind of guys, and now he's beating a hungry guy in Dubois. He ready to step up and fight. The guys in the top 5-6, definitely.
All right.
Javier, can I just ask Javier, with the Chisora Usyk fight, do you think that was Usyk at his best, or do you think he may have underperformed a little bit in that fight?
It's funny. Everyone keeps asking me about that fight, and I keep saying to people, unless you've actually boxed, right, you don't know what it's like to fight someone who spends the whole time running after you. It's not easy to contain Derek Chisora. No. From round one, he's on top of you the whole time. You're trying to find space to work. It's never going to look clean. To me, Usyk did a good job. I mean, he's the guy that's coming up. He's facing a naturally bigger guy, and to me, he apart from the first 2 rounds, to me, he bossed the fight. So I don't know why people are negative about that performance. Yes, obviously, he looks like he needs to maybe grow into the weight a bit more. But the guys that have come up in weight previously have all had to do that. Evander Holyfield, one of the greatest heavyweights ever. It took him a little bit of time, a bit of seasoning when he moved up to heavyweight. It does take 2 or 3 fights to get there. But now Usyk looks like he's ready to me because you've dealt with a big guy who comes forward. It's like I say, when Floyd fought Maidana, even the first fight, the guy's coming at you and throwing so much punches. It's not easy to get off in between those gaps. He made adjustments in the rematch, but again, it's hard to pick up to win rounds against these guys that just work. You have to focus on landing the clean, effective punches while they're working. So to me, Usyk did a good job. I honestly can't understand the negativity regarding that fight because Derek gives everybody work. Yeah, gives everyone work.
No, I'm the same. To be honest, I'm in agreement with you. I feel the same way. I don't understand why so many people were so negative on that Usyk performance, but there you go.
Yeah, Usyk outboxed him. He looked kind of small in there. Like, I know he is smaller because he came up from cruiserweight. It just was like, man, these heavyweights are way bigger than him. And it's dangerous, man. It's real dangerous. But he does have the skills, though. He got the skills. And one more fight, a potential fight for Joe Joyce. I want to get everybody's opinion. Joe Joyce versus F.A. Ajogbo. What do you guys think about that fight?
The time is not right, is it? The time they're at different stages of their career. Ajogbo is a strong, good prospect, but Joe Joyce is way ahead at the moment. It doesn't really make sense with Joe Joyce. He's had those fights already.
I agree with Pro Beez because he's already beat a guy, last night like that. A guy coming up who's looking like he's going somewhere. To me, Joyce needs to move forward. He's not getting any younger. I don't know exactly how old he is, but he needs to start moving now. He's got to get in one of these guys and try and fight for a title or fight a top 5-6 guy. To me, he doesn't need to be looking behind him. He needs to look in front. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
All right, Xavier, before we exit, I've got to ask you, Dillian was online last night, right? And we saw it on Michael Benson's Twitter feed last night. Your immediate conversation with Dillian Whyte after that fight last night, what was it?
Well, we're the whole team at the moment, we're out in Portugal. We're in training camp. So when the boxing's on, we all go to watch the boxing together anyway, watch it live. So we were all there last night watching it. So like I say, someone always has something to say about somebody else. Warren's he's made comments about Dillian. He's made comments, so you can't expect the guy not to fire back. Dillian's going to fire back. It's like you can't give and not take. That's just the way it is.
Because obviously Frank Warren made a number of statements saying that Dubois would beat Dillian. And when they had the whole poster matchroom against Queensbury, there was a lot of that. Yeah.
So I mean, someone's always got something to say about Dillian anyway. But Dillian, Dillian can defend himself. You want to get into a slanging match with Dillian, then more than likely you're going to lose. The guy's witty, he likes that anyway. So
he likes to smoke. Yeah.
You know what?
He likes that smoke in and out the ring, so that's fine.
I still remember turning into Loughborough University car park to go for a swim, and Dillian White was just on his way out, and he was having a word with some fella in the car behind, and I was like, "Yeah, good luck with that, mate." And big smile on his face, but yeah, he seemed to enjoy having a bit of a verbal with this fella in the car behind him.
Honestly, he's a great guy to be around. It's the energy, man. It's the energy. In boxing is entertainment. You have to fight. You have to be able to fight in the ring, but outside the ring, you've got to be someone that we want to talk about. Always someone that we want to talk about. And you can't say there's nothing you can say negative about Dillian. He gets in there, fights everybody, and then he's got the talk. Like, isn't that what we want? It's entertainment.
Well, this is a problem that Dubois could have, really, isn't it? Because I mean, not to be disrespectful to him, but he's not known for a big, vibrant personality out the ring and in interviews.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. They're trying to make comments like that about Terence, but to me, they got no right to talk about Terence's character or personality. He doesn't need to do any more. The guy is a decorated fighter. What more could you ask for? He's done everything. Multi-weight division champion. We very rarely get an undisputed champion. I put a post up the other day. I don't think we've had even an undisputed lightweight champion since maybe Pernell Whitaker. I think the last welterweight was Zab Judah. Like, this doesn't come around very often. So when it does, celebrate these guys. I mean, Terence doesn't have to play that role. He's an outstanding boxer, an outstanding fighter. And really, that's what he wants to do. He wants to do is talk in the ring. Then you've got other characters who, like Broner, who's very, vocal outside the ring. Everyone's got their own personality. I don't try and force someone to behave a certain way. Daniel is who he is. He's explosive in the ring. If he catches you, it's good night. And, that's how he's always going to be. You can look at his character and say, he's never going to be that rah-rah kind of guy. It's not going to be him.
Well, just to kind of conclude, I would say that what we've seen over the past 8 months or so in these fights behind closed doors is that fighters need to evolve. If you fight on the front foot, then you're going to have to fight going backwards. It's about the game plan. You see a unified champion in Anthony Joshua working a lot on his lateral movement. The last time I was in their gym in Finchley, he was doing a lot of lateral movement exercises, working the lines in the ring. He was doing like this reflex exercise with Angel Fernandez to improve his mobility. So what I would say is that the champions are doing, even Fury fought Wilder the second time, went forward the whole time when he's a herky-jerky slickster. So what we're seeing is versatility and evolving is key. Evolve or become extinct, as they say.
Fair point.
All right, guys, it's been marvelous to have this conversation, man. Wow, man. Who needs lunch, man? This was my lunch, man.
I do.
All right, guys. We're going to leave it there, but thanks for joining. And remember, smash that like button, share, subscribe. Pep Talk be coming.
Respect to all of you, man. Take care, man.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Cheers.